All right, so the target today, continuing on what we did with the binary numbers the other day, today you're going to be able to calculate the range of values that can be represented using binary numbers of a given size in bits. And you're going to invent a simple communication protocol and use the internet simulator again, which it's changed from the last time you saw it. So in Google Classroom, let me turn the slide down so the screen is show up. You'll see this. This link just takes you to the section for lesson 6. This activity guide has the directions of what we're going to be doing, and this worksheet is what you're actually going to use to draw your shape that you're going to communicate to someone else, and they're going to have to draw it. They're going to have to just look at the message you send them on the internet simulator and try to recreate the shape. And I printed these forms out for you also. I just did this mainly for the people who can't be here in class so they would be able to see the worksheet and they have to print it out from home or whatever and try to do it themselves. So I'm going to play this video. So hopefully this will explain the changes in Internet Simulator since last time we've seen it. Adjust the volume as usual.
Computer science principles. The tool has changed a little bit from the last time you saw it in order to make certain things easier. Let's take a look at the changes. The widget now lets you enter ones and zeros instead of A's and B's as before. Last time, you and your partner had to work together so that you didn't set the wire or send at the same time. In this version, we've solved that problem for you. So now, when you hit send, everything you typed in the queue will be sent out at the bit rate you select. It can go a lot faster now. You or your partner don't have to do anything to receive a message. When the message comes in, it will just show up in the received message log. You also no longer have to worry about squashing each other's messages. The wire is now a two-way street. You can both send messages at the same exact time, and each of you will receive the message intended for you. We also have a new slider called chunk size. Chunk size actually does two things. The first is that it allows you to clean up your bits to make them more readable. So if you have a protocol that requires 5-bit chunks, you can use the slider to clean it up. To understand the second thing the chunk size slider does, we need to look at something else. You'll notice a checkbox under encodings that says decimal. If you check it, you will see the decimal equivalents of the binary values.
That will say
Of course, how the binary is interpreted depends on how many bits per chunk you're using. So that's the second thing the chunk size slider does. It defines how many bits will be used to interpret the decimal number. Notice how when you change the slider, the decimal numbers change. Important to note is that if you have extra bits dangling off the end, they will get padded with zeros before sending. You can type numbers in decimal and see their binary equivalent below. You have to put a space between each decimal number you type so the tool knows how many digits to encode in binary. However, be warned, the numbers still respond to the chunk size. So if you type a number that's bigger than the chunk size can handle, it actually overflows, and you get seemingly weird results. Notice that at 4 bits per chunk, 15 is 1111, which is the largest 4-bit number you can make. So 16 causes the 4 bits to overflow, and it rolls over to all zeros. And 17 is 1 bigger than that, so it rolls over to 0001. This is actually how most computers deal with overflow. This is exactly the same behavior we saw with the binary odometer widget. Even as numbers get bigger, there are only so many bits, so once you're at all ones, it rolls over to zeros and keeps going up from there. So with automatic sending and receiving of messages, and the ability to define your bit chunk sizes and see the decimal values that correspond to them, you're all set to define protocols and send messages composed of numbers. Happy bit sending!
Okay, so it's going to be more user-friendly this time than we've seen it in the past. But like he was talking about, the 15 was the largest 4-bit number you can send, or 4 chunk size number you can send. Does that make sense? Do y'all understand why? Because when you go back to your little flippy do to make the number 15, we had to add 8 and 4 is 12, and 2 is 14, and 1 is 15. So that's the largest 4-bit number you can do because it's all ones across there. But if you wanted 16, that's actually would be the 5th numbers, so that's why that chunk size won't work. So you have to keep that in mind when you're developing your protocol, your rules for sending your messages. You gotta decide ahead of time what chunk size you're gonna use, and if you only go with a 4 chunk, then you can't use any numbers over 15 in your coding, or in your messages you're sending them, or they're not gonna come through to them the correct way. Does that make sense? So you need to decide what chunk size. So to help you understand a little bit better, you'll see, if you look at the activity guide, let me pull that up and go over those directions, and then I'll pass these worksheets out. But you've got it in Google Classroom also. But this activity guide gives you directions. So if you look at that example right there, you're going to have a grid on your paper that I'm going to give you. And you're going to draw some kind of image that you want to communicate to your partner. They don't need to see it first. So y'all may want to sit somewhere opposite from each other, across the room or whatever. But you're going to draw some picture first. So you also need to look at that grid. No, you need both of those. Everybody's going to get 2 pages. So look at the size of that grid. You need to decide how you're going to number it. Are you going to have 0, like for instance, yes, hold on, I'm coming back. I was going to see if there was another grid on here to go by. This one's kind of small. Let me go to this worksheet real quick that I'm handing you. Let me pull it up on here. Okay, so this grid is kind of small, so you've got, if you say 0 starts here, then if you went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you would only have 7 points that you could use, right, as far as reference. So you got to decide that too with your partner. Before you ever draw a shape, I would come up with, where is 0 going to start? Is it going to start here? So they know if you do, 1 through 7, or if you want each one to represent 2, so like 2, 4, 6, and then you could go halfway for the number 3 or something. You need to think about that. That's going to help you too. So after you get that decided, then separate. One of you draw a shape. You're going to use, well, both of you actually will do it because you're going to take turns. So on your first sheet, you're going to draw your shape up here, and then you're going to come up with your rules of how you're going to send them the message, how they're going to interpret it. Then on the second sheet, they're going to get your message from the internet simulator, and they're going to draw the shape that they interpret without seeing what's on your paper, just from what they get from the internet simulator. And then they're going to turn around and send you theirs. So one side is for your outgoing message, and one side is for the incoming message from your partner. Okay? And then after you've done that, then we need to, you need to get back together and make sure you've got the actual right shape. But if I go back to this other worksheet, this one is the one that has the directions. So it says, challenge, develop a protocol or set rules for communicating a drawing to your partners using only numbers. And then it's got some rules here. So make sure you read over those and everything before you even started thinking about your shape. So we've got an odd number of people. So Alyssa, if you want to go to college and career, you can. But then you need to, maybe on Thursday when we're back in here, go ahead and get your half done on the first sheet. And then Thursday when we're back in here, even if it's somebody that's already working with a different partner, you can partner up with them to do, okay? So make sure that you get the, read over that activity guide too, so you'll understand the instructions. Everybody knows worksheets now, right? I told Courtney I was not even thinking, because I've got to do something to update the computers. It only had an expert on there, and somebody tried expert was a lot harder. So I've got to update it tonight to fix that.
So it is tomorrow?
Yeah, y'all can do it in class tomorrow. That's all I'm going to get everybody through kind of PowerPoint demo today. So it'd be quiet for y'all in class tomorrow. So I will do it tomorrow. You're welcome to stay in here if you want to. Okay.
Yep.
0 through 7. What do you want to do?
0 through 7, you mean that top chart?
Yep.
Yeah, that works for you.
make sure y'all read these rules. The image will be a line drawing created by connecting points on a grid like the one you see here, so something like that. You can discuss and agree on a protocol ahead of time, but the image exchange must happen without communication between the two parties other than through using the internet simulator. You can only send a single message, a single list of numbers through the internet simulator to describe the whole image. So you've got to decide your coordinates, like after you set up your protocol, then you've got to draw your shape so you can get your coordinates, but part of your protocol with your partner may need to be, okay, I'm gonna send you two numbers, like 0, 1, so you would know where to plot that, and so on, so they'll know, is the first number going up and the second number going over, decide all of that before you ever draw your shape, so they'll know how to interpret it when they get it, because they're gonna get all the numbers at once. And again, that's when you have to think about the chunk size, because if your numbers get too high, then you have to adjust your chunk size, and that's gonna have to be part of your protocol. So the things to consider are how will your points be formatted, how does the recipient know when one number ends and the next begins. So write the steps of your protocol below. So you can open that in Google Docs and type it, because that's in there for you in the classroom. And then here's your protocol rubric. So after you finish, this is for you to do after you finish. So the first part of this worksheet is where you write your protocol down before you draw your shape. Then you'll use the other worksheet that I gave you. You'll use the one with the bluish green on it to draw your outgoing message. Then, after you've discussed your protocol and both people understand it, then you'll separate and you'll log into the internet simulator like we did before and join each other so you can send the message, and then you'll come back to the second part of this worksheet to finish it. So if you go to code.org here that I gave you the link to, then to get back to the internet simulator, in here you've got vocabulary protocol we've already used before, so we know it's a set of rules. And then when you go here, that's where you go and you choose, just one, and you'll join the section, and then you'll just have to join with somebody. So y'all will have to join each other. And that's when it'll put you back in the internet simulator. So if you get confused or have any questions, we've got longer today to work on this. And if there is anything you didn't finish before that's in Google Classroom already, try to use this time, especially if you get through this fairly quickly today. Try to use this time to get caught up on the other stuff, because there's still a bunch of stuff that I have not gotten submitted from any of you yet. I've probably got like 2 people that have turned in everything.